Hello everybody, I hope you're having a great day. And in this episode, we will add all the sprites to our editor. And there's a few ways we can do this. The first one we could do is also the easiest one, but it would take up the most amount of room in our user interface. For every new tile as well as the rotation of it, we would add another button, which would look bad, but it would go rather fast to add this feature. However, the second one would probably be the one that requires the most amount of code, but it would look kinda cool. When you click a button, you get a second bar of buttons with all the rotated sprites in it. But that's not the best one, and it's not the one we're going for. The one we're going for is the third option, which is that we have just one button for each type of the tiles, and when we press a button, we rotate the current selected sprite. This one does not add anything to the interface, but still allow us to use all the sprites we have. So let's go with option 3. But before we get into the coding, hit the like button if you enjoyed this tutorial and also the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming videos. Cheers! I also want to thank all of you for the milestone of 100 subscribers. That's really cool, so thank you all. Even though my channel is tiny, I see people enjoying this tutorial and I promise you I will finish it. I won't leave you hanging. Now, let's get started. We begin in our tile manager class and we need in total of 5 more array lists. We need one for our roads, our left and right and up and down. We're just going to call them road, straight roads. Then we need another one for our roads, but there will be corners, because we have 4 corners. Then we need one for our water corners. Then we need one for our water beaches. And lastly, we need one for our islands, water islands. And down here we simply right click, source, generate getters and setters, beaches for our corners and islands, as well as our roads. Then we can remove our setters, we only need the getters. And save that. So all we have to do now is to place the correct tile in the correct array. And we're gonna keep the ID as it is, so no matter what array it's in, a sprite will always have a unique ID that only this sprite have. So take a copy of that array for left and right and top and bottom. Gonna place them in the roads. We're gonna make some space here, place them all together. And for our road corners, gonna place them in the same. Our water corners, water corner, and water corner. And there's a little problem here. Bottom left, that's correct. Top left, top left. But then the next one we have top left for top right, and then top left for bottom right. But I don't like this line change, so we're gonna remove the water section and see if it's looking a little bit better. Then we shift save. Yeah, that looks better. So for top right, and here we have bottom right. All right, that looks better. We don't have the weird line change. Corners. And for our beaches. And lastly, we have our islands for our islands. Save. And we don't need to put the grass or the water in any arrays. They will just be simple buttons without any arrays, because they don't need to be rotated. And now we will put all of these arrays, these new arrays, into the same array. So we can reach them 2 ways. We could reach them, if we want a beach, we can reach them in the beach array or in the general array. And we're gonna do it by tiles.add. Nope, it's not add, it's add all, right? Add all. And then we say roads. I think that's gonna be, oh, I need to spell it correctly too. Yeah, and then we copy that. So we had 5. So we need for our corners, our beaches, and our islands. Did I miss one? Like so. That's better. So now we can reach the tiles in the tiles array, or if we know that we are dealing with corners, we can reach them in the corners array. All right, next up will be to move from our tile manager into our toolbar. It's where we're going to do most of our work. And in our toolbar, we will not remove too much, but we will not use this array anymore. And we will use something called a map. And a map is like an array list, but instead of giving it an index to get a value back, we give it a key and get the value for that key. So it does not have to be an index 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It can be, I have a string, give me the integer value for that string, or I have an object, now give me the price for that object, etc. And our key will be a my button, and the value will be a array list of tiles, and we will call this map for simplicity. Equals new hash map my button and array lists for tile, not tile, tile. And then of course we need to implement them, and that's how you create a map. And we're going to use a map to tie this specific button to a specific tile. And we might have been able to do it with normal arrays, but that opens up a lot of doors for bugs and problems that just not going to work very well. But now if we give it a button, then we get a specific array back. No matter how big it is, as long as we have the specific button, we get the specific array back, which is exactly what we need for this. And the idea here is that we have one button for each array. So we will have one array for roads, straight, left and right, one for corners, road corners, and then we will have 3 buttons for water. One for water corners, water beaches, and water islands. So that's gonna be 5 new buttons. So we need private. Actually, we're gonna have 7 buttons because we have normal water and normal grass. My button, the button grass, and button water. And then we have a button for button road S, button road corner, button water corner, button water beaches, and button water islands. And down here we will change it up a little bit. We can actually remove this, I think. Yes, we don't need this anymore. We don't need to worry about these two. We're gonna stick with these values. We're gonna stick with I for index. And what we need to do now is to initiate the buttons and place them in the map. And then when we do that, we also need to tie them together with an array. And to do this the easiest way, I think we will make a new method that takes in a button, and then we give it an array. And in this method, it ties them together as well as initiate the button. And we do it because we want to save a lot of code, so we don't want to repeat ourselves too much. And this method will be called private void init map button. And we will give it a my button called b array list tile list. And then we will give it the position values, which will be int x, int y, int x off, int width, int height, and also int ID. And I don't know if you're gonna need the ID, but it's better to have it and not need it, and not need it and it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. And to save some space, we're gonna initialize the button before we place it in the map. So b equals new my button. And we don't really need to have a name for it. We can leave that blank, and then we say x plus x off times ID, y, width, height, and ID. I think, yeah, that's looking good. And then we take this button and place it in the map. And we do it by saying map.put. So you don't say add, you say put. And we put the b together with a list. So every time we call this and give it a button and an array list, we put it in the map automatically. So we tie the specific button we give with the specific list. And now it's in the map, and if we later, which we will, need to get the key or the value. And the button is the key, the list is the value. So we say if we want to get the list, we say map.get, just like we usually do. But instead of passing in a value, such as 0, 1, 2, 3, we pass in the button we have, which is button, and then we get the list, and we can use that list. But before we start using this method, we're gonna start with the grass and water button. I think they should come first. So we say b grass equals new my button, name grass, starting position x start, y start, width, height, and I. Right? Yeah. And we do the same for b water equals new my button, but it's not grass, it's water, and it's x start plus y x offset. All right. So now we have those two first, and then we're gonna add the other buttons. So we say init map button, we pass in b road straight, and now we need an array, and we'll get the array from editing.get game get tile manager, and here comes the getters that we had before. So we don't need to create any arrays in here, we already have them in tile manager. And we want to make sure we get the right one. We want roads straight. Yep. And then we pass in x start, y start. Then we had x offset. Then we have width, height, and also ID, which is I. And we need the plus plus. So it's increasing all the time. And that looks right. No, it does not look right. We need the road array, not like so. We need it so. Now it looks right. And copy, paste 4 times. Road S, road C, islands. There we go. Next up will be to get the buttons drawn. Let's ignore the functionality behind what we want to do. We just want them to be drawn first and foremost. So in our draw buttons, or draw buttons, we can comment that section out for now. We will not draw any tile buttons anymore, so we can comment that out. But here we'll say draw map buttons and pass in G, of course, and create the method. And in this method, we will do something similar to our draw tile buttons. We will draw an image, then we will fix the mouse over functionality and also mouse pressed functionality. But we're just going to start out with the image. And we can loop through a map a few different ways. We can loop through for the key, in this case the my button, or the value, which is in this case the list. But there's also another one, we can loop through the array to get them both at the same time. So we'll get the key and the value at the same time. And we're gonna do that, and it's gonna look a little bit different, but this is how you do it. Normal for loop, or rather enhanced for loop, is much better. And we're gonna say map.entry, and here they want us to specify what are the keys. The keys are my button, and the value is an array list of tile type, not tile, tile. And we're gonna call this object we get for entry, simple for simplicity. And we will pass in a map entry set, the key and the list set. So we say map, which is our map dot entry set. So now we get, for every iteration, we get both the my button and also the list, which is what we want. My button equals entry, which is what we got, dot get the key. Now we have a key, which is the button. And then we have buffered image, image equals entry, dot, now we have the list. Not yet, actually, get value. Now we have the list. And I'm thinking that all of the buttons will have the default image as an image. So the sprite with no rotation to it will be the image for that array. So get value, now we have the list, dot get, and it's always going to be the first index of that array that have the image that we want. So Now we have the tile dot get sprite. And that's how we get the button and also an image. Now we can say g dot draw image. And we want to have a custom size of it. We don't want 32 by 32. So we say draw image. Of course the image, the x will be b dot x. Then we have b dot y. B dot width. B dot height. Because if we did not specify the width and height, then we would get the sprite size, which is 32 by 32, and that's not what we want. And then we say it like that. We're pretty much ready to try it and see if we just can see our buttons, but first we want to comment out these old code. That's not all, we don't need that. We don't need this loop for now. We're going to change it off, of course, but we just want to see if it works. This loop, and then there was one more. Oh, here we go. I think there's no more errors. Nope, there isn't. So let's just try and see if they work. All right, the game started. Let's go. We have 5 buttons. We forgot 2, which is the default grass and default water. So let's draw them too. And instead of having draw tile button, we have something else like draw normal button G. But we're gonna have to do it twice, so let's just pass in a button and yeah, let's just pass in a button. Button grass done, and then we do it again for b.water, and then we create it, button b. And in here, we can actually just copy the same from that one. I think this is going to be right. Button get ID, just checking so that the button ID here, this will be 0 and 1. Just need to make sure those two are correct, and that's why we add the grass, and then we add the water. So grass is 0, water is 1, grass, water. Yeah, that still works. So we can still use the same one. Perfect. Now let's try and see if we can see the first 2 buttons. Yeah, we do. And now let's add some feedback for them, like mouse over and mouse pressed and that kind of stuff. So we start out by copying what we have in this older method. That's what we're gonna need, so why not just copy it, go to our method, paste it, and uncomment it. And let's remove that image though. We don't need that. We only need this. Mouse over, yes, rectangle, default, and then if it's pressed, it's a bigger one. Yeah, that looks alright. And of course in our normal button, so we have it there as well. But looking at this, we have the same code twice, and that's not good practice, so that bothers me a little bit. So let's make a new method, private void draw button feedback. That's a decent name. Graphics G we'll need, and then we will need my button. No, my button B. And then we can just copy this, place it here. Mouse over, yep, that looks right. And instead of typing it there, we say draw button feedback G and B. Copy that as well, and for our normal button. Alright, that looks better. Let's see if we have the borders actually, at least in our... Yeah, we do, so that's implemented, good. What we need to do now is simply to replace the old code for our mouse events and replace them with something that actually works. So we can, let's keep that for now, so we have some reference. And we still need a loop, so we say for my button B, and we'll pass in a map dot key set, so we loop through the keys. And down here we can actually copy all of that, uncomment. Selected tile is not correct. Instead of going into the tile manager, we already have them in the map. So we can say map.get. We have the key, which is the B, so we get the correct array list. Dot get and then 0. This makes sure every time we click a new button, we get the first index of that array, which is the image on the button. And now we can remove this. We don't need that anymore. And to make it easier on ourselves, we copy that loop and reuse it for our mouse over. Instead of return and doing that, and we can remove those two as well. We simply say b.set mouse over false. And here we will say b.set mouse over true. And we can remove the brackets for the loop, but not the if. Same for pressed. Instead of that, we say b.set mouse pressed true. Remove brackets for the loop. Don't need them. Oops. But we need it for the if. And mouse released. You guessed it, it's the same. But no if, just b.reset booleans. Alright, released is right. Pressed looks right. Moved looks right. Clicked looks right. And we can remove this code as well. We don't need it anymore. Let's check if it works. Let's see if we have some feedback. Mouse over works, but not for these two. That's right, I forgot about those. We will add them just in a sec. Let's see if pressed works. Pressed does not work. We get the tile, that's good. But we don't have any feedback for pressed. Why is that? This looks right. And we have it in our draw feedback. I know this works, so why doesn't this work? Do we even call pressed? Clicked, mouse pressed. Oh, we never added that from the last episode. Oh well, so let's add that. And mouse pressed y is more or equal to 640. Then we go toolbar dot mouse pressed. And for released, we just say toolbar dot mouse released. All right, how about now? All right, now we have pressed. Good, but we still need to add those two, water and grass, so let's do that. So in our clicked, we can copy this line, add brackets, change b save to b water, small a. And here we can also copy this, but we will not get the selected tile from the map since it's the b water and b button water does not exist in the map. So we go editing, get game, get tile manager, get tile b.getID. So it's the same as the previous one. Why b? Oh, b water get ID. All right, that looks better. And one for grass too. B grass. And it's not b water, it's b grass. But for mouse moved, we simply say b water dot set mouse over false. B grass dot set mouse over false, correct. And just like before, copy paste. It's your best friend. B water, B water. B grass, B grass. And mouse pressed. We can take the same steps here. B save, B water, B grass, be grass. And mouse released be set, be water, preset. Alright, now they've been added to all of these mouse events. Let's see if they work. We should have mouse events like over, pressed, pressed. Can I get it? Yeah, it works. Good. Very good. And what we need to do now is to add the feature where we click a button or a key and the sprite rotates. And I thought about using our mouse clicked event and use the button 3, which is the right mouse button. But I thought no, let's use our keyboard instead, because we haven't used it yet. And in our key pressed method, we say if game states dot game state equals edit. Then we call game. We don't have any constructor even, so let's add a constructor so we can get the game object. Public keyboard listener game, because we have it in our mouse listener, but we don't have it in our keyboard listener. So private game this.game equals game, and of course import the class. And to our game here, we should now have a error. Nope, it's not in game, it's in game screen, where we pass in the game object. That looks better. Game.get editor.key. We don't even have a key pressed. Mouse drag public void key pressed key event e. If we need to import it too. If e.get key code equals key event dot what key on the keyboard? Let's use R for rotate. We say tool bar dot rotate sprite. Rotate sprite. Now we can. I know it doesn't exist. We're trying to create it here. We can place it above draw. Public void rotate sprite. So that works. Edit works. Keyboard listener. Key pressed. And we pass in the E. And the reason why we're not using a switch here, like we do in our mouse listener, is because I don't think we're gonna use the keyboard keys that much. But if we're starting to do it, we'll just add a switch. But for now, it's only in the toolbar we actually need to use a key. So in toolbar, we now come here to rotate sprite. Now it's getting a bit interesting. If we take a look at our game, whenever we press one of these buttons, we're selecting a new array and also a new button. And to get the second index from that array, we can use the same button, but we also need to increase the index of that array by 1 to get the next tile. And let's go down to our mouse clicked here somewhere. Mouse clicked, here we are. And every time we click a new button, we say that the current button is equal to this new button. So we have a specific button we clicked. Button B. No, current button. And with this current button, we can now get a specific array to get a specific tile, which is what we want. So selected tile, which is the one we need to update, equals map.get. And now we have the key, which is current button. Now we get the array, and what index do we want? We currently have the 0, but we need the 1. And the way we change that is to make a new variable called current index. And we're just going to create it first. Private int current index equals 0. And where are we? Here. Every time we call rotate sprite, we say rotate current index plus plus. And to make sure we don't go out of bounds, for example, current index goes to 5, but the array is only 4. That would give us an error and the game would crash. We make a simple check for that. So if current index is more or equal to map dot get boom current button dot size. If that's true, then we say current index equals 0. So we'll just reset it. So we'll go 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, over and over. And the selected tile has been selected, and we also call editing set selected tile. And now all we have to do is to reset the index every time we click a new button, so we don't get any weird results. And let's see if this works. Selected tile, yeah, that could work. Let's see if we run it and see what result we have. So let's take this one. There should only be 2. I'm clicking R. How about that? It works. And the other ones works too. That's really cool. Nice. And let's see if we can make something else happen here. That is really smooth. Nice. And let's see if we save it. Menu, play. Well, there you go. We can now rotate our tiles, which technically gives us the ability to use all the tiles that we previously had, but with a much smoother interface. Alright everybody, I think we're done with the episode. We got all the buttons working, we got all the tiles and the rotations is working just like we want, which is perfect. So I'm gonna end it here, but don't forget to leave a like if you like this video, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. But until the next time, take care now, and I hope to see you in the next video. Cheers!